Hello, here's Christoph again with a new material I would like to introduce you. It's called CW carbon fiber or carbon collection. So what is it actually? The carbon collection is a collection of 12 carbon materials, or better 12 textures that you can use to create these patterns here. The carbon material comes here with two node systems with two node groups. The first one is a CW tiling tool that controls the UV coordinates of our carbon material, and here is a carbon collection. This is the heart of our carbon materials. I have created this carbon material collection actually because I made some experiments with a tiling tool for Blender, and this is here, this node. And here in this tiling tool you are able to do some basic elements to create tileable textures or tiles and patterns in Blender. So let's have a look what we can do with my carbon collection. So you can see here an example. I've made a small stripe here to show you a different shape, and here is a default sphere with UVs. I suggest you to use UV coordinates for my material here, so I've used it too, and then you can control and have a control over all settings for your materials. Here we can see an example. It's a black sphere, a black material. I have prepared 12 of these materials with different colors, so if you buy my material collection you can append these materials directly into your scene. So let's see what we can do, or how the materials look like. I think I will show you first the carbon collection before we go to the tiling tool. The carbon collection comes, as I said, with a collection of 12 textures. The textures are specially prepared for this carbon here. So the first one is here, the carbon number 1 texture, and my material works in this way. You have 12 layers. So if I want to see the first carbon, I have to make it completely visible here. I put the slider to 1 and I see the first texture. So if I want to see the second texture, I must reduce the visibility of my first layer, like in Photoshop or in another tool, and I see the second material, the second texture. So you can see, if you like, you can put in a 50% value and you see both materials, a bit of the first layer and a bit of the second layer. So let's see what we have. First, you have seen this is a default carbon material that I've created for you, and you can see it looks like this. So then we have a second carbon material. It looks in this way here. There are some holes and it looks like a default material. Then we have a third carbon that looks like this. And I will show you the next one, and later I show you these options. You can do a lot of things with my materials, but I show you first the patterns. So now we see the fourth. This is the fourth material or pattern. The fifth here, number 5 here. And then we have number 6. It's an interesting material because I'm working with alpha textures, and in this special situation the alpha texture looks a bit strange, so you can invert it to see the real material. So I can do it here. You see, this is the first option. You can use, for example, alpha invert, and you can invert the alpha information for this 6 here, for number 6 of my material, and you can see here the material in this sphere. And if you look a bit deeper, you see that there is a small bevel, a small bump information. The bump information is controlled here by the bump map strength. So when I set the bump map strength up or down, so we see the intensity increases. Now we see this material has special bump information to make it appear like a bumpy hole. My material supports in bump map inversion, so you can invert this bump map just by using here this slider. And now look on this bump. When I invert it, the bump goes in, and now our material looks very nice. It looks like a interesting whole material with a lot of holes and some structure here for the anisotropy. The next one is number 7, so I go down and show you number 7, and now we have the same effect, but this time it looks really interesting. In this way I have to invert alpha again to see the right texture information, so I do it again to invert it here, and now I see the new texture. It's number 7. This is the information or the texture you see when you set the 7 or set this texture. So I blend it out and see the 8th layer, and this layer looks like this. And then we take a look at the layer 9. Here we see the 9th layer. So I turned it a bit, and you can see if you go a bit zoom in or you zoom into the scene, you can see it looks like this here. Okay, I can invert the material so it looks a bit better here. This is the actual material. Again, we have the layer number 10, it's this one, and you see I have prepared a layer like this. The same, we go to number 11 and we see this one. Of course you can invert the bump map, and if you want. All works here fine. So let's see what the last one. The last one is number 12, and it looks like a bit like a grid, you know, like hexagon grid, and yeah, it's very interesting. So I blend in number 11 and, or let's say 10, yeah, 10 is not bad. And let's see what we can do now. We can adjust more settings here in my material. So you can, for example, set a clear coat to your sphere. So I do it here and set a clear coat value of 1, and now we see the material is glossy. It looks like a carbon. It looks more like carbon when I put the first one here in, and now we see the first layer with this texture, and it looks really nice, like a carbon car or a helmet. And I reduce the bump map strength a little bit so it looks a bit more nicer. If you like to have the clear coat effect a bit more or increase it, then you go to clear coat and you can type in the double value. So the clear coat will increase the more you type in. So 5, for example, looks like this, and you see it look a bit like a nice surface of a car. Of course, you are not forced only to use this color. You can choose a different color here. For example, the base color can be different, and I choose, for example, a red one and a bit brighter. Here's a red one, right? So like this, for example, and you have here a very nice red effect. It looks not bad. Okay, then you can set the roughness of your material. So the less it is rough, the more it begins to shine. So it's very shiny. I switch the clear coat off so we can see it through. Here you see it's a very shiny material, and if you set the roughness a bit higher or very high, then it begins to be a bit like, I don't know, like fabric. So you can choose here between your values and set the value you like. The bump map strength, increase the bump map or reduce it. So when I reduce my bump map, I just see another effect. It's here the anisotropic texture. This texture says or defines the direction where my anisotropy is going, or where the direction of my anisotropy is going. So for example, when I change the appearance of my texture, so the scale is turning the anisotropy a bit because I am changing the value here, the color. And when I put it down to 0, I just have a very clean object without any anisotropic texture that comes with our first carbon here. Of course, you can increase the bump map strength again a bit, and you see your bump map, but you don't see any anisotropic texture effect. So I have combined some of my layers with anisotropic texture and a bump map. So why control this separately? So for example, if you want to reduce the anisotropic strength and not only the texture too. So you can do it. You can go here and put it down, and you can reduce the strength of your anisotropy, and you don't have any anisotropy on your sphere or on your material. This can be very good seen when I put the value a bit down here, and so you can see the anisotropy strength grows, maybe a bit more. So now we can see it. Here we can see the anisotropy, and here too. I put the strength down and it disappears. You can see it here. So of course, if you have a texture of anisotropy, for example, and you reduce the strength, so the strength goes down too, and you see just a very small effect here, a very less anisotropy. So you can experiment with these values and you can make very nice textures. Then we have the alpha visibility here. So for example, I go back to my nice texture number 6, I think. Yeah, I take the other one, this one, for example. And I put the bump map strength bigger here, and I invert my bump map to see it like there are cool bevels here. So let's say you want to switch the alpha information off because you think this looks very nice, but why not using it solid? So you can do this by the alpha visibility. You can switch the alpha visibility down and to 0, for example, and you have a very nice new texture that looks like this, for example. You can do this with all alpha information textures that comes here with my materials. So you can see here this one, the carbon 6, for example, it looks like this, and the other one was the 7 here, and this one is the 6. The 6, the difference is it's equal, the holes are equal, and you see here a nice anisotropic texture when I set it down. So you can see it became less and less. Okay, this is the difference here between these two materials, and you see you can make some nice variations. So if you don't like this, you can put the alpha visibility back to 1 and you see the alpha again. So great. So what we can do more, there is another slider here, and you can see it here. You can switch between an interesting mode, a black and white mode. Why I'm using this? Some materials have to be controlled, and if you want to control them, then it's better to see this information as a pattern and not as a carbon effect. So I can switch between the actual carbon and the control effect. The reason for this is, for example, if you want to rotate your patterns here, I can show it to you. For example, I go now up to the tiling tool and you want to change the rotation, and I change the rotation slowly, so you see the texture begin to rotate, and this gives you more control, especially when you are working with dark materials. Maybe I show it to you. So let's say we make a dark plump material, and we have a regular carbon here, and maybe the bump map is not very strong and so on, and now you want to rotate it. So sometimes it's nice to switch to the pattern mode, and then you see you can rotate the information here very nice, let's say to 45 degrees, and now you see here on this side it looks very nice. I go back to the carbon effect and you see this here. So I think the bump map is inverted, so I invert it again. So we have it here again, very nice. I switch now to gold maybe, and so we have a gold effect. Another interesting thing is here the rainbow effect. I don't show it really. I have not shown it to you really good or before, so I do it now. Clear code. No, the rainbow effects does the following. You can add it and you get a rainbow effect, for example here. So this is very interesting when you are working not with spheres but with such kind of objects. So you see there is a nice rainbow is going over the model. So you can see it's walking over the model here. But in this case it's not really an advantage to do this, but if you like you can, of course. So, but when we change the color to a pearl-like material, like this one, for example, here, and we put the value, let's say it's a bit gray, more this, and we put the fx a bit down, for example, that just a little bit, then it looks like a pearl, or a combination of a carbon and a coal effect. And this colors here, carbon and pearl, I mean, this color, the rainbow effect, can control how much you see of this nice reflection, the color reflections you can use here in your material. So it's very interesting, for example, to make small carbon pearls if you want. So this is possible too, and looks very nice. I make it to white, so let's reduce the saturation, and now you see it's a white, interesting carbon effect. And of course, again, you can change the layers, let's say to 5 here, and you see this is looking like this, or the fourth and the third, this one is not bad too. So we can do a lot of different things to make this all interesting. Okay, this is the rainbow effect. Let's see what our tiling tool can do more. So let's say you want to change the carbon pattern distance. So you can do it here by, no, I will begin with the tile amount, sorry. So if you want to say, to make it fine, for example, so you set the value to 80, so it begins to be smaller. If you want to make only some of them, of the tiles, you make them, you set it to 10, and you see only some of the tiles. Here are the tiles, and the bigger or the less effect. One is just one tile on the complete UV set. As I said, UVs are the best to use my material. And 5 is distributed here, and so on, or 100, so it's very fine, and we see very fine, nice effect. What we can do more is we can set the distance. You have to be a bit carefully with the distance. Don't forget, this tiling tool is not made only for my carbon collection. The carbon collection is just a gimmick that comes, or a result, and the tiling tool works itself very good for making different effects. So let's say we create or we set a different distance for the patterns. Now they begin to move out, or to increase the distance between every pattern, so you can see it. I set them to, let's say, 50 again. So you can see this is one pattern, and the pattern is placed like a tiling texture side by side. So I have set now the distance, for example, to 1. So 1 means the size of this texture pattern is 1, this here distance here, and another 1 is now the distance to the next repeating texture, to the next tiling texture. So when I say 0.5, so I have the half of my texture used for the distance, and so on. So if I say 2, you will have 2 values before the next texture starts. So this makes this system here very interesting to do cool stuff. So for example, when I put all the textures down, and we see just where is our this one here. So we can see I will invert my circles here, and we see some holes, and I will invert my bump, and I see the holes here with this small bumpy elements. Our problem is now we see the anisotropic texture too, because this information is in the pattern and not in the material at the moment. Maybe I will change it in the future, but if you are familiar with Blender nodes, you can do it by yourself too, if you are using my tiling tool. Maybe I will prepare a tutorial later to show you some more effects that you can do. So let's go again. So now I put down the texture, the anisotropic strength to 0. Oh no, not the strength, sorry, the texture. And now I see just my bump map. Wait, let's say it's too big here. Now I see my bump map, and I see my alpha information. And if I want my anisotropic strength, I can set it to down to 0 and the roughness to 0 too. So we have a very nice metal-like bowl or whatever. I set it a bit down, maybe a bit blue here. So we have a metal-like, oh, maybe a bit more roughness. Okay, and some more anisotropic too, because I like it. And now we have a like a metal here, metal effect. But we have this holes here, and the distance is set by the tile distance here. You see, you can set the tile distance down or up, and very interesting, 0 is the default value, but you can go into the negative value. So now you can do this, or you go far more into the texture, and you can do, for example, this kind of textures. And it's a little bit crazy, I know, but you can do a lot of things. If you, for example, invert it back, then you have this kind of elements here, and it looks a bit like this. So you can control and you can combine and make a lot of nice effects just by controlling the distance here of your pattern. So it's very interesting to do it. Maybe I invert the bump map again, and we have now this effect. Let's make it to 0.5. No, it's too much, so let's say 4, and it looks really cool and nice. So if you don't like the alpha, again, you can the alpha visibility can be switched off, and now we have an interesting effect just here with this texture that looks like a bit more different. So this looks not very bad, it looks really cool, and you can do a lot with the textures here just by using the tiling tool. So the tiling tool is separate, so you don't need to do it here or to use it with my carbon collection. You can of course use it for your own textures that have to be tiled. So you can just plug the UV information to the vector of the tiling tool, and this output node or this output here to your texture, to your own texture image, and then to the material you are using, for example the regular Blender's regular principled shader, for example, and so on. And you can experiment with your own textures. So I think I have all. This is my new material. It was a bit longer than I thought, but I think I have explained to you all the important features that I use. Yeah, maybe some of them here again, at least, or the last information that I will give to you is here the outputs of my carbon collection. It's very easy. This here is a CW carbon output that goes to the surface. This is this information here. And then we have the carbon, the roughness. When I use the roughness, I see just a gray value. It's here. And then we have the bump map information. We can always see the bump map here. So the strength can be controlled too. No, not really. Okay, so we see what kind of bump map is going here out. Then we have the anisotropic information. It can be better seen here. I will put it here in. So here we have the anisotropic. I set it to 0, sorry. Here we have it, and we have different anisotropy effects, and this one is here for the carbon 6. So, and then we have the alpha information, and this is, in this case here, it's this circuits. As you can see, this is my material. I switch the alpha in, alpha visibility in, and I invert it, so, and I invert the bump map. So now we have this texture. And this is the alpha information here, and this is the anisotropic effect here that controls our effect here. When I zoom in, you see this small quads. This is our anisotropic layer here. Okay, I hope it is not so complicated for you. Actually, it's really easy. So if you want, you can experiment. You can do a lot of things just by using this. Yeah, maybe these two informations, shift X and shift epsilon. It's very easy. So you can shift the texture to the side, to the X axis, and this shifts your texture to the epsilon axis. So if you want, you can use this both here to to move the patterns left or up, and this one to rotate them. This is the tiling tool that does it. Yeah, that's all for today. I'm very surprised, 25 minutes to introduce my new material, but I hope you liked it, and I hope you will buy it in my shop. Thank you very much and have a nice day. If you have questions, just drop me a line, and yeah, we will see us next time again when I have an update or maybe a new material for you. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye bye.